Hello and welcome to episode 247 of the Random Nintendo Podcast. I'm Jason.
I'm Angel.
I'm Kevin.
And we're calling this episode Getting an Earful, which has a double meaning. Ooh.
Double entendres.
Wow.
I know. On the one hand, we mean an earful of music, as we're going to be sharing impressions of two music-themed games, the indie release Tadpole, Treble, Encore, and the upcoming platformer that's set inside a musical, Balan Wonderworld. And on the other hand...
Yeah, I was going to ask. I didn't realize it was music-themed. I thought
it is music-themed.
Trippy
yes.
Carnival-themed.
No, it's all musical. It's all musical. It's a stage show that you use music... Well, we'll get to it. But so that's one way we're talking about earful of things. On the other hand, we mean... You know, an earful from your teammate shouting at you because maybe you messed up in a co-op game, which I'm not saying has happened to me, but with Mario 3D World and its co-op-centric gameplay about to hit Switch, now feels like the perfect time to do a little co-op catch-up with some late impressions of the Switch version of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker and its special episode DLC, where two people are actually two characters, not just a character and a pointer, and then we're going to discuss more broadly, our favorite co-op experiences and what we look for in a co-op game and all that. Plus, beyond the title... we're going to cover some Switch hardware news, the latest Animal Crossing happenings, a new Mario 64 speedrun record, and the dissolving of Vicarious Visions by Activision, which was sad to see. So there are timestamps for all that on the blog post. If you're on YouTube, it's under the video. The blog post at ramtown.com, forgot to say that part. Or if you prefer, we're probably just going to go pretty much in the exact order I just rattled off those topics. So you could just jump, just stick around and see it all that way. Or hear it all that way. But anyway, how are you guys doing?
Good. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm losing my mind because I'm stuck at home in quarantine. If you listen to QC, you know that I caught the coronavirus. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. And I know you're all worried about me. Don't worry about me. My family's fine. I came out positive on my most recent COVID test. So that was a bummer. So I'm taking another one on Tuesday, and hopefully this one comes out negative, so I can go back to work and finally leave my room. Because, oh boy.
So what have
sucks.
I'm glad you're at least feeling okay and your family's okay. But what have you been doing to pass the time? Have you been playing anything?
Nothing.
How are you getting
That's
by?
the worst part.
Wow.
I'm just wasting my life away. That's not true. I did start a Coursera thing. So I can at least learn something.
That's useful. Because I was going to say, I just realized all the games I rattled off we're talking about this episode, none of them are from you. So
yeah, none of them are from me.
Anything. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Well, I hope come Tuesday, or by the time people maybe hear this, you're already negative again.
Well, yeah, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Tuesday, supposedly, Apex Legends finally launches on Switch, so I might give that a shot.
Yes, that's the rumor. Yeah, Season 8 is apparently when they're going to launch it. Multiple signals from Japan that's going to happen, but nothing official yet. So, time will tell. But in the meantime, Angel, I know you played something. We already said at the top, that rhythm game, that indie game, Tadpole, Treble, Encore, which actually I think that was originally on the Wii U, right? Like it's an enhanced port, hence the Encore, I think, right? Or was it Steam, or was it both? Or
I'm not sure. Someone I know did mention that this... is a game that predates the Switch, and it definitely makes sense. It kind of looks that way. Not necessarily like a really bad thing, but I don't know. I feel like because it's a port competing with pretty much a lot of, modern indie games, indie games have just gotten, I don't know, I guess to look, I guess I'll call them they almost feel like not quite AAA, but just like AA in production value. Like they just look like they could compete easily with them. I mean, just look at Hades, even though it's like a 2D pretty simplistic looking game. Production value wise, it just looks really good. It looks like if a AAA studio were to bust out a 2D game, it looks like that could have happened. Or it looked like it could have been it. But this game definitely has that, I guess, homegrown indie game look to it.
To be fair, isn't it somewhat intentional? Because it's the Brawl in the Family comic art guy, like the guy who draws Brawl in the Family. I think he did the art for this, so that might be where it's coming from, at least a little.
Maybe, but I mean, art style aside, I wasn't super keen getting in, I guess learning about the game and before starting playing it, just because while I do like rhythm games, I don't know, my favorite rhythm games are. Rhythm Heaven and Elite Beat Agents kind of different styles of rhythm games. I mean, you have your typical like tap or strike something to the rhythm of a track, or or Rhythm Heaven, where it's just kind of random. Like it's just more like a little mini game more so than a rhythm game. But this one kind of mixes both, and I feel like it works better overall than it doesn't. Like the only real downside to, I guess, its game mechanics is essentially you have I guess sheet music, or it's just like one chord. You have your how does the acronym go? Um all cows, no no no. Oh,
Oh, the
wait.
acronym for notes.
Yeah, for the chords, yeah, because you
Oh,
have
yeah, I
like
don't
you
know.
have your four lines, and then in between each line you have also like another note. So it's almost like you have like 10 lines essentially that you're working with, and you're controlling this tadpole that you can move up and down across the lines. It just dodge. Essentially, you're just trying to dodge obstacles and survive and get to the end. But on top of that, you have these like pink bubbles that you can collect. There's like 100 for each level, and following them will keep you, I guess, will just keep you from running into obstacles, because you don't ever really have to do anything to the beat of the music. It's one of those games where everything else is going to the beat of the music. Pretty much exactly like NSR. I'm pretty sure I talked about that here, or maybe I said I was going to and I never did. Because that one is like a third person action game where all the enemies and everything attacks to the beat of the music, but you're still controlling your character, normally as you would to your own time.
And
So
yeah, you did talk about NSR, I think, in our end of the year episode. I think you picked it as your Switch game of the year, didn't you? Like out of nowhere.
maybe that sounds right.
Yeah.
But Tadpole Treble does the same thing. Like everything else is going to the beat of the music. You're hearing the soundtrack, the obstacles populate, and just do something to the beat of it. But you yourself are not. And usually, I am a much bigger fan of games where you yourself have to tap or do something to the beat of the music. But since you're just dodging obstacles, if all the obstacles are, say, like on the bottom half of that, I guess, of those lines, I forget their proper name, you could just like coast up top. But luckily, like that doesn't happen too often. If anything, like the themes for each level are just really interesting and really fun. Like I really like the like one of the more recent levels that I did. I am almost done with the game. I like all but beat it because it's addicting. It's short and fun. Like the last level within, you have to like dodge these piranha that essentially you're being chased by, like, I think it's five piranhas, and as you're just moving up and down dodging the obstacles that you would have to dodge anyway, you're also dodging the piranha from behind because they're chasing you. I just smacked the microphone. And then at some point they like turn, well, I guess they form the shape of a gun and they fire themselves at you, so you have to kind of position yourself so that they're going to fire somewhere that you won't need to escape to, just to make it easier. There's like some planning ahead to it. Plus, there's also another level where you're like being chased by barracuda. There's another level where there's like another tadpole that's like serenading you, and you're like kind of following it, but just like also trying not to die. There's like also just a bunch of interesting little hazards you know, just to keep the gameplay from simply being moving up and down. But you, I guess it's just something you have to get used to. But I mean, once I did, I mean, I did end up like enjoying it, but I just kind of wish there was a more, I guess, intuitive way of controlling it, because it feels like a game that kind of screams to be like on a touchscreen. And I actually didn't try if you could just use a touchscreen on Switch handheld mode. But
actually, that makes sense if it was, since it was. I guess that confirms was it a Wii U game? Yes, there you go. It was built for a touchscreen, probably.
Yeah, because you literally just control the fish by moving up and down. So if you have, like, I don't know, the top four rows, spikes are coming at you and you have to go down. But then the only way to dodge the spikes, you have to go to like the third to the last line on the bottom. Like if you hold down, it's kind of hard to, I guess, exactly time when you're going to release it, because the fish doesn't move that fast up and down. Like it moves just slower than you think it does. So I sometimes when I have to do like a bunch of like crazy up and downs to dodge the obstacles, I usually end up hitting them anyway because it's kind of it's really easy to overshoot. It's overshoot or undershoot for that matter, and I don't know. It feels like it's so close to being like I guess perfect as far as like a rhythm game goes, but that control wise just like it just didn't fit perfectly. But it's still fun enough that I'm still gonna complete the game. Like I'm enjoying it that much. But I guess like it's something like that that's probably gonna keep me from, returning to levels to try to get a perfect score. It's more like I feel like I'm probably just gonna beat it, and that's probably be it. But I mean, if you are accustomed to those controls, or you just managed to figure out the secret to always landing where you want to land, what I've been doing recently is just instead of just holding down, I try to count ahead of time like how many spaces it is. That way, I can just tap it that number of times, and it sometimes works better. Sometimes tapping it isn't as fast as just holding it down, so you still end up hitting the obstacle anyway. But yeah, it's an interesting situation, but I think it's cool.
I dug out. So I don't think we disclosed. We got this as a review copy from I guess the PR firm that's helping with the game, and I dug through their materials. And yes, it was a Wii U game originally. It is the Brawl in the Family art guy, and it doesn't say
it doesn't work.
It doesn't say if there's touch controls. Oh, it doesn't. Okay, interesting.
No, it doesn't. You could control the menus with it, which is interesting, but you can't play the actual game with the touchscreen.
Huh, that's kind of surprising. One other thing now that I'm looking at the materials, this is something I wish more games did. Apparently, Angel, I don't know if you did it. Did you unlock the developer commentary for each level?
I thought there is developer commentary. I think I unlocked it for one of the levels, but
I think that's cool. I want more games to do that. Like, I obviously it's hard. Like something like this, I imagine, because you're just kind of writing the sheet music and it's very linear and structured. It's probably easy to overlay like commentary. But I wish more games did that. Like, it would be cool if, you're playing, like, Mario Odyssey or something, and there's, like, those little goggles you can look at to, like, scope out the world, like, actually, like, trigger some, like, spiel from the developers for a couple minutes about how they designed the world or something. Like, I get most games they don't have, like, a set narrative or progression, so you can't do it like a movie, but, like, I wish... It's cool.
Director commentary in the game is something that, it's a really interesting thing.
Portal 2 has an excellent developer commentary for the entire game.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like listening to those.
Is it like as you enter each room, it starts the next wave of the like how's it work?
Yeah, that's what, isn't it?
No, it's kind of like there's like giant like a commentary icon, like just on the world. You just like walk over it, and when you walk over it, it just triggers it.
So kind of the Mario Odyssey idea I had, except but instead of
just practical because you don't have to like interact with anything. You just like walk over it, and then it just starts talking. But that's something you have to like activate outside of in the outside menus. That way you don't, just get annoyed by it.
Right.
Yeah, it's very cool just getting an insight into it. Like, oh, we actually had planned a completely different level to this one, but due to budget constraints, we ended up going with this or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you try the again? I'm just scanning over their press release. Did you try the composition mode at all? Is that?
I did.
How is it? Is it more like Mario Paint or more like SimTunes? I don't know if that analogy works for you. Did you ever play SimTunes?
It's definitely more like Mario Paint because I don't know what you're talking about for the other one.
Okay, I should explain SimTunes. So SimTunes... Do I what? I have to? Yes. So SimTunes... I loved this thing as a kid, but basically first I guess talk about what Tadpole Treble's composition mode is like, and then I can contrast it. That might work better. Is it just like you just place notes, or how's it work?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you already have the chords already laid out, just all the lines are ready. And the only thing that I kind of wish it did a little better, or maybe it's too hard to ask right now, but actually, yeah, it is. Essentially, I would have liked it if they don't give you literally everything right off the bat, because it just comes off as extremely overwhelming. Like, because you have no idea like what does what. So, it's obviously one of those things where you're definitely encouraged to beat the game first. That way you see everything in action, because just going into it right off the bat, like I have no idea if some of these things are like collectibles or obstacles or anything, but everything is pretty much laid out on the screen, which just makes everything feel like really busy. But yeah, it's like your eyes is drawn to everything, so it's kind of disorienting. But I'm sure it's just going to be one of those things that you're just going to have to like stay at it for a long time until you get used to the location of everything. It feels like kind of like looking at Maya for the first time, where it just looks intimidating and you don't really want to mess with it. But once you're at it for a few months, you realize that, oh, it's not that bad.
That's like me and the Unity engine. I was like, I let me see if I can make a game real quick, a small little game. And I opened up Unity and I said, okay, yeah, no, this is not going to fly.
So, Andrew, I guess that means it has all the instruments laid out and everything. You just drop them in, but it's just all the options at once, and it's just intense.
Yeah.
Because it's just intense. Because what SimTunes did, which I thought was really cool. Now, this is a game that's on like PCs and I don't know. I think it's supported by like Windows 95 or something, 98. Like it's old. But what it did that was really cool is the instruments weren't what you placed on the screen. What you placed on the screen were basically the like note progressions in the form. So you had a pencil and you drop colored blocks. And instead of, having sheet music you lay objects on top of, you're placing the blocks that represent each note, and then you're running an instrument on top of those blocks. So a given color is of a block is a given note. So like, green may always be C# or whatever, and you can place them wherever you want. And then you have these little bugs that represent each instrument travel along the paths, and there's special blocks you can use to loop the bug back or change their tempo or send the bug in different directions. And ultimately what you were doing was drawing your music. So you were making art, like you could draw, like it was like a paint program, but then you could run these bugs on it, and depending on which colors you use and which blocks and everything, that's what made the music. So it's both visual and audio. It wasn't just like a simple here's sheet music, throw things on top. It was like actually a whole other thing that was really cool. I wish like somehow that lived on. I don't think as an adult now I have that creativity to do that, but when I was a little kid I loved it. And I feel like the first thing when I saw Tadpole, Treble, Encore, when the trailer and the code came in
for the level maker, so that is a good thing.
That's a good thing. But yeah. But the first thing when I saw Tadpole Treble, I was like, oh my god, the little like tadpole that's riding the sheet music reminds me of the little bugs that ride the notes in SimTunes. So I was, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh come on, please tell me they somehow copied the SimTunes. I didn't think they would, composition process. But if they ever want to do a sequel, I'm just saying, SimTunes, hidden little gem from like 1994. So just throwing it out there.
I mean, some of the little obstacles are assigned instruments that you can, use it to, I guess, you can literally, create your own music or just, copy sheet music from online just if you want to hear, I think, Song of Storms or something. It's, an easy one that a lot of people do. But, yeah.
Is there a way to share them out? Is there, there's, a QR code or something, I would imagine, right? To let people use your tunes?
I am not sure. I didn't really dig a lot into the music maker. Gotcha.
Well, the whole package.
Sure, there must be a way to share. I'm pretty sure there is a way to share.
Yeah, there's got to be a QR code. But yeah, the whole package is only $9. Worth it? Is there enough content for $9?
For $9, yeah, I would definitely say so.
All right, there we go.
I don't know what else you want to say.
Yeah, no, that's it. We're good.
For its price, it's pretty robust.
So I guess since I was already opening the door of music games I've played, this is where I would talk about Balan Wonderworld. But before I do, Angel, was there anything else you want to say about Tadpole Treble?
Only thing I'm going to say right now is that in the Switch's library right now, there aren't a lot of rhythm games I would actually recommend. Even off the top of my head, just a lot of them just haven't really caught my eye. There just hasn't been another Elite Beat Agents or another Rhythm Heaven. I keep going to those, or even another Rhythm Thief. That game was also amazing. There hasn't been anything like that that has, that just really I guess piqued my or broken my favorite rhythm games list yet. So when I say this is definitely one of the better ones, I definitely recommend it. Definitely better than I would say more fun overall than that other game. I think it was called something Super Sonic with an X.
Super Sonic Super Sound something like that.
Is that the one that was 99 cents?
Yeah, and then it's Super Sound Sonic or something.
It's by no means a bad game, but it literally feels like a Japanese arcade rhythm game that got the ROM, copied to the Switch, but you're missing the controller. That would make this like really fun. Because playing it on just the normal controller, I mean, it works. You're literally using every single button. But, I don't know. Rhythm games, like, the controls have to, I don't know, just feel fun. And that one just didn't. But it just feels like it's missing something. Like some big gimmicky peripheral. Which would definitely make a big difference. But for now, yeah, I would definitely put Tadpole Treble at the top, at least from all the ones I've played. Guess there was a wait for those aforementioned Heaven Thief. We'll have to wait. We'll just have to wait.
Well, I think like a pretty glowing endorsement that's in the upper echelon, because there's like 20 plus rhythm games on Switch, I think. So, being towards the top of that.
Yeah, and we mean actual rhythm. And I'm assuming that means actual rhythm games, because I mean, NSR, I could see people considering a rhythm game, even, though I wouldn't.
Right. And I mean, even I'm like using the definition loosely, because I'm like, I'm going to talk about a music game with Balan Wonderworld, which, to be clear, isn't a music game, but a game set in a musical. So,
there you go.
The definition of an actual rhythm game. Yeah, can't trust me. I'm a fraud. But yeah, I guess I could talk about Balan. Was there anything else?
No, that was it. Thank you.
All right, so I guess I can.
A few minutes.
Of course, Angel. Of course, this is your show as much as it's ours. Anyway, yeah, it's Balan Wonderworld. So these impressions are only based off a demo.
Very patronizing.
No, I was being okay. Anyway, these impressions. The impressions I'm going to share for Balan Wonderworld are based off only a demo for the game. The full release isn't out until March 18th. And, I really did have some hopes for the game. Like, conceptually, it checks a lot of interesting boxes. It's an original platformer by Yuji Naka, who, as you guys know, previously did Sonic. And he also did Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg back in the GameCube days, which I think we touched on when Balan was first announced last summer. That, Billy Hatcher is actually a surprisingly decent little platformer with kind of unique gameplay mechanic where you had to like roll these giant eggs around, and the eggs would hatch into different abilities you'd use, and there are power-ups and animals that help you and all sorts of stuff.
I like that game.
So I have to... What? You do?
I like that game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
I wanted to play it.
It's not great. It's not changing it didn't change the world. It didn't set the world on fire. But you know what? It was fine.
Mm-hmm. 10-year-old it was enjoyable. Oh man, how old was I when it came out? I was probably like 4 years older than you, so I guess I was 14. But yeah, it was fun. And like right off the bat, because in part of Billy Hatcher, like the pedigree of Naka and doing all that had me interested in Balan, because even the gameplay premise is kind of similar here. Like instead of eggs with different abilities, you have costumes to swap between, 80 of them. And in the demo, sure enough, you have different abilities you gain, like a flutter jump or a ground pound or a Crash Bandicoot style tornado twirl, or this vertical stretch thing that's kind of like when Mario captures in Odyssey those uproot enemies and can get really tall and stretchy. Like all that is available in the demo, and each costume does something different. And then you kind of pair that concept with the game's theme, which borrows a bit from Night into Dreams with its whimsy, but basically you're playing through a musical to overcome the fears and anxieties of yourself and different people. So each world is themed around a person and their troubles. Like at the start of the demo, it's a corn farmer, and his levels are themed around farming with giant corn stalks and crops scattered all over the level. And then ultimately you fight a boss that represents that person's like, I guess, inner demon of sorts, which for the farmer, I guess is a big old dog or maybe a wolf, because wolves eat livestock, but he's a corn farmer with no animals, so maybe not a wolf. I don't know. Anyway, you beat it, and you give the person their heart back. A wacky dance number breaks out, and then it's on to help the next person. And all this is happening. This whole process is being guided by this whimsical hat for a head being named Balan, who bears more than a passing resemblance to Knights, which isn't exactly a coincidence, since the character designer for Knights and even for Sonic, a guy named Naoto Oshima, I think I probably butchered that name, but he's the character designer for Balan Wonderworld. It's the first time he's worked with Yuji Naka, and I don't know how long, which, is just another box to check for why this game should be something you pay attention to. Except then the demo came out. Uh-oh. And listen, I understand a game can change between a demo and a final release, but what struck me most about this demo isn't that there's like things that can be fixed. Like there's not like graphical bugs to fix, like pop in, although yes, those are in the demo. And it's not like the frame rate running slow is a problem, although yes, it does. And it's not even, that the worlds look a little sparse and simple, like maybe one from a couple generations ago that somehow is being released now. No, like my concern here is that all this potential, all this pedigree from the developers and their unique ideas and all that just feels, I really hate to say it feels wasted on like the most ho-hum platformer full of incredibly questionable design decisions. And I know it sounds harsh, but there's just so many things I don't understand about how Balan came to be. Like, the whole game just feels ripped out of the early era of 3D platformers, as if they didn't learn any lessons from the past, I don't know how many generations of games. Like, take the speed of the game. I mean, frame rate aside, everything is just so slow. Like, your character, even when his animation says he's running, like he looks like he's running, he barely feels like he's walking. The camera, when you swing it around, does it so slowly. The costumes, when you need to switch them, which, to be fair, is easy to do. You just tap L and R to cycle between them, but then each one has to have a little animation activating it that just makes that process unnecessarily drag. And that's particularly annoying because when you need to use a combination of costumes, which, you know, is supposedly one of the big hooks of the game, and it's actually encouraged for its co-op mode in particular, where you have to kind of balance between costumes, it's annoying because there's no fluidity of stringing the costumes together. It's just this slow, rigid process due to each one needing to do a little fancy animation, especially when each costume only has a single ability. So if you want to ground pound to a platform and then flutter jump to the next platform and then attack an enemy with a fireball, that's 3 costume changes, each with their own animation. So like if you do that with a Mario or a Crash or any number of mascots from the past, I don't know, 20 years, it's just boom, boom, boom. Here it's like boom, pause, boom, pause, boom, pause. And it just like really drags down the experience. And it's also odd that like you lose the costumes really quickly. So if the one thing that's fast is how quickly a costume go away. If you get hit by an enemy, the costume's gone. That's it. First hit, it's gone. And then you have to backtrack to wherever you got it in the level to get it again. And you do need it to complete certain things. So there's constantly this zigzag if you have to get hit by an enemy. And even the process of getting a costume doesn't make sense. Like, you have to find a key and take it to this gem that the costume's locked inside of. Except almost always the key and the gem are just a few feet apart. And it's not like there's a puzzle to solve. You just have to like get the key and literally walk over to the gem, which again just adds this feeling of slowness, because it's like, why don't you just make the gem the whole thing? Why do I have to go to the right just to turn around and go to the left to do the same thing? It just doesn't make sense. And what kind of sucks is like that sort of shallow puzzle solving is pretty much what the rest of the demo amounts to. Like, oh, you need to open a door? Well, there's a switch directly next to it. Just go stand on it. You don't need to find it. It's just there. And at one point, I actually started to see these like dancing NPCs in part of the level, and I thought maybe they provide clues for deeper puzzles. Like, oh, they're signaling come over here, or they're telling you use an ability there. But nope, if you walk up to them, they just all inexplicably fade away, almost like a graphical glitch, except it's actually intentional from what I could tell. I'm guessing they're supposed to be like backup dancers for your musical, because they are just kind of dancing around and stuff, but they're never really explained. They don't actually do anything. They just kind of exist until you get close, and then they don't exist. It's strange. And then there's also these other special Balan bout segments where you get to control the Hat Man thing. Whatever it is, you control him, and you basically how it works is you unlock these bouts mid-level and are then whisked away into like an entirely different thing. It's sort of like, you know, in Sonic where you go do the half pipe in the middle of a level or something. And when it first starts, there's Balan flying around with all these dynamic camera angles, and I was like, all right, here we go. Knight's homage. I see what we're going to do. We're going to fly around as Balan, except no, you are not. It's actually a series of QuickTime events where you need to time button presses with on-screen actions. And those actions are, this is real, slow-moving, semi-transparent, static images of Balan in set poses, and when they overlay with the animated Balan that's moving around the screen, like that animation of him in that same pose, you then press the A button. That's it. So it's like they're dragging a Photoshop layer that's semi-transparent on top of another layer, and then you press A when it looks like they line up. And it's very slow-moving, too. Now, to be fair, maybe I do our podcast banner stuff, so maybe I'm just really good at layering Photoshop layers. I don't know, but it was really like...
Ooh, the flex.
Yeah, I know, right? What a flex. But no, it was really mundane. Like, the whole thing just felt like, I was like, seriously? Like, they had this big climactic, he flies in, and then you literally watch a 50% opacity image of him overlay on top of him. And I don't know. And on some level, maybe the simplicity is because the game is constantly being marketed as being aimed for everyone, which kind of translates to kid-friendly. And they do talk about how, like, co-op's really fun with parents and their kids, which, again, translates to kid-friendly. But if I were to compare demos of other kid-friendly platformers that I haven't played the full versions of, much like Balan. I look at something like Super Lucky's Tale, which I played back at E3 2019, and that felt like such a better, modern, more fun approach to platforming than what Balan's now doing in 2021. So I'm not even going to... I don't even buy the, it's for kids angle, because I have played slices of also for kid games that are way better than this. I think the difference really just boils down to these odd design choices. Like, remember at the top of this whole little spiel I was saying that there's a dance number that happens when you beat a boss? That, Angel, you brought up Rhythm Thief, that would be a perfect time for some quick time events of its own, right? Like, you know, in Rhythm Thief, they made all the cutscenes interactive. You had rhythm games in it, but nope. These dance numbers in Balan, which is a game set in a musical, are not interactive. They are not actual gameplay. They're just cinematics. Literally just, they make these incredibly ornate original compositions. They have all these characters. You can't do anything with them. You just watch them, and then you go back to the mundane stuff. And I think the biggest bummer of all this, to me at least, is not that the game is bleh. Like, it's that the blehness, for lack of a better term, is holding back some genuinely neat stuff. Like the level concepts. I mean, sure, they look a little bland and like they're maybe using a free asset library or something, but I appreciate that they didn't go with the generic worlds that most platformers have. Like, they have one based on corn farming, and there's another one later in the demo that's like clocks and gears and things. And it just feels like they have their heart in the right place. They just couldn't execute on it. Or like they have these little guys called Tims that follow you around everywhere. They're basically the Balan equivalent of Sonic's chows, almost to the point of like being ripoffs. But if you feed them these droplets you collect in levels, they build these neat contraptions for you in the overworld. They can be powered up, and then each color of these Tims can do different things, like have attacks or find you hidden items or stuff, and they follow you through the levels. So you can like power them up and have like assistance as you go through the levels. That's kind of neat. But again, because Balan is Balan, nowhere does the demo tell you any of these more advanced things you can kind of do. Square Enix had to put out a blog post that explains it all separately, like the day after the demo came out. For anyone who wants to try Balan and understand some of this deeper stuff, we'll link to the blog post in our episode post on roundtable.com. But it's just like, there's these ideas there that just are not, they have no way to happen. Like, it's just like they have so many interesting things that just kind of fall to the wayside. And like, similarly, the cinematics are really actually surprisingly good. Like, one aspect that really deserves a shout out are cinematics. And I do remember in the original reveal, Square Enix was saying how they're bringing their CG know-how and their rendering engines, and they're going to create a platformer that has the production values of all their other properties. And yeah, that part they nail. Like, the CG cutscenes look like they're practically from a different project in terms of the quality and the design. Like, it looks really good.
Hey, you know, you're talking about the company that put out Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Like, come on. Yeah, they're gonna.
Yeah, and that's what's funny. So they brought their end of the bargain to the table. Like, and the music's all really good, and it's a huge component of the game. So much so that they already announced a 90-song soundtrack when the game comes out.
They already announced a sequel and DLC.
No. But they're putting out like a soundtrack. It's like all orchestral and stuff. I just like really wish that the gameplay part matched all this. Like, the developer pedigree's there, the ideas are there, the execution's just not there at all, almost to like a mind-boggling degree. And like, I mean, I guess it's possible that they could somehow turn this thing around in 7 weeks. But as it stands now, like, I gotta say, like, temper any expectations you may have. Balan Wonderworld, this is not to be cheesy for a sec, but like, really, it's mind-boggling how out of left it feels. To Angel, to your point about like indie games feel like AAA titles when you're talking about Tadpole, Treble. This feels like worse than some early indie games in terms of, it just feels like it's an alpha or something. I don't understand how this is getting released so soon. It's really weird. And it does suck because, again, like, there's some cool stuff in there if you can get under the like badness. But yeah, I don't know. It's just so bizarre. So
make Sonic Adventure 3, you cowards.
Honestly, there's no way that Sega can put out a Sonic Adventure and have a worse reception than what Balan's going through right now. Like, people are playing the demo just to bash it, I feel like. So it has like one of the bigger threads on like Reset Era and stuff, and people just be like, "What is this?" And,
I mean, like the previous. I mean, I think like since we first saw it, we were all kind of thinking like, "Oh, this looks a little rough," even though like it looks ambitious but rough. And I mean, I don't know, like maybe I don't know. It feels like something that they were probably like waiting on showing off till later. Because I mean, it's kind of suspicious. Like when you have a demo out that seems to already show all these issues. I feel like normally you just want to wait a little longer. Because I mean, the demo. I mean, look at Resident Evil 8's Village demo. Like it's not even like the actual game. It's just like a vertical slice of the concept of the game. So you still get a feel for it, but it's not spoiling anything. They literally just show you what you. I mean, there's like no combat in it. You're just walking around. So like maybe
you're
the
talking
combat
about Maiden, right?
Yeah, Maiden. So like maybe like that aspect of it isn't ready to, to show off yet because I mean they showed it off in the trailer, but they're figuring like, oh, if we put the combat there now, people might say it sucks because it's maybe glitching out. Like this sounds, I don't know, it sounds suspicious.
And two things that are weird. One, to Capcom's defense, not only did they do that, but they also have double the lead time between the demo and the release. So if things did go south or take a wrong turn or whatever, they have, 4 months before Village is out. But this is 7 weeks. But also, I feel like Square Enix was really like, there is something here if you're willing to give it a shot. Because they could have, most demos would have been, all right, you do World 1, here's a couple chapters of World 1 and the boss fight. Okay. They do that, but then if you do, collect statues, which are basically like the game's version of stars in Mario or whatever, you can actually unlock 2 levels from later in the game, one from like World 4 and World 6 or something. So they're really trying, and those, again, there are interesting ideas in those, like the clock and gear world I was talking about, but like, again, they're kind of like, hey, look how cool some of the concepts are, but they can't back it with the actual like meat and potatoes of gameplay, and it just continues to fall flat on their face. But it feels like they're trying to save it a little by being like, look, we give you a really big demo. If you get through the early stuff, look at this cool later stuff, but it's not enough to save it, I guess is what I'm saying. But it is weird. I definitely feel like they should have delayed it. And yeah, it did look rough when it was first announced, but that was last summer, so I figured, okay, they showed us like alpha stuff from last summer. By March 2021, theoretically we should be okay, but nope.
Yeah.
There's some weird curse with like prolific 90s game developers trying to forge their own thing without their original, like we have Yuji Naka doing this. We had Inafune with Mario number 9.
Did we have
had the
success
split
with
of Death Stranding feedback. Bloodstain actually held its own okay.
Yeah.
I feel like Hirashi actually like hung in there. But another example,
yeah, even
Devil's
Yooka-Laylee
Third.
wasn't as well received. It was just like it just felt like
as good.
Although the sequel is supposedly really good, but
yeah, Impossible Lair, yeah, because they changed it up and made it more of like a 2D.
Now it's the Donkey Kong Country, inspired one instead of the Banjo inspired one.
Exactly, yeah, and but even like I don't know if you remember Devil's Third on the Wii U. Nintendo got the guy that did Ninja Gaiden.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, how could I?
Igaki, yeah, but but anyway, that Nintendo's like, look, we got this whole lineage of games. We're gonna make a new one, and it just was not good. And he like left gaming for a while, and is only in the last week doing interviews about wanting to make games again. But yeah, so it's like I don't know. There's like some era of game designer that seems like every time they try and do a comeback or mix things up in some way, they get Balan Wonderworlded, and it's strange. I'm not sure what it is.
Is that the new term that we're gonna use?
Baland. Yeah, I mean it used to be my number 9.
I like balance, yeah.
I like Ballad. Yeah, it's smoother than my number 9. But yeah, I'm hoping it's like the curse. Someone's gonna break the curse. I think.
I think
Bloodstained.
Bloodstained definitely.
But then Balan went right back in, so who knows? Yeah, Bloodstained did well enough to get a prequel spin-off, a sequel. Like that's moving along just fine. But
it's probably gonna get an anime at some point. Like
probably, I'm sure Netflix will pick it up the same way they just did with Tomb Raider and Skull Island show, and obviously Castlevania. They're going all in on the animes based on other properties. So
let me tell you, much less excited about that Cyberpunk anime.
Yeah, I don't blame you. They really botched their prospects there for a franchise, I feel like.
I mean, what if the game didn't have any of those issues, or that had nothing to do with why you weren't excited about that anime?
Yeah, to be fair, it's It's still Studio Trigger and the director of Gurren Lagann, so there's a shot that it could be good.
Well, it's sort of similar to Balan to me, the Cyberpunk situation, because the world building seems cool for Cyberpunk. It's just the execution within that world. Like Night City and everything they built out looks cool, and there's probably good stories you could tell in there. It's just maybe they didn't do that well in the game itself, you know? So maybe there is hope for the anime because it could go in a different direction.
Yeah, you can only hope.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I will say, luckily, not all the games I've been playing lately are as glum as Balan. In fact, quite the opposite with the other game I wanted to bring up this episode, which also will lead us into our co-op discussion, which is Captain Toad. And I say it's for two reasons why I'm like so positive about it. First, the reason I bought it. Like, I own Captain Toad on Wii U already, and, you know, I didn't double dip through both the release of the quote-unquote special episode DLC or the Labo VR support because, you know, $40 for what amounts to 18 new levels and a little viewfinder. I don't know. But then Walmart started selling the entire bundle, the game and the DLC, for $4, which is less than the price of the standard DLC. And how can you say no to that? I don't know if either of you guys jumped on that deal before it expired, but it was an accident.
I didn't even know that it was a thing.
Oh, well, so I guess that's how you can say no to that.
I had my fill of
and not
Captain
Toad.
Would have been great to know from our producer, but, you know.
Well, it happened so quickly. But
similar to the Balan Wonderland situation, but, you know.
Hey, you knew about Balan Wonderland. It was on our topic list.
I absolutely did
more
not.
Than it was there. You had time. But anyway, yeah, seriously. So if you didn't know about the Captain Toad thing, which sounds like you did, it was a really weird situation because basically Walmart put up the DLC at a sale price, but it was the full game bundle by mistake. So then they pulled the listing, but then they put it up again the next morning, and it happened again, and they just kind of left it there for like 4 or 5 hours, and then they took it down. And my conspiracy theory, I tweeted this out as a total joke, but my conspiracy theory is this error was actually a rogue Walmart employee who just really wants a sequel, so, you know, he gamed the numbers a little by inflating the sales for like 13 hours with a cheap price, and probably cost Walmart thousands upon thousands of dollars. But I'm sure we've all done something like that, right?
Damn, that's going to hurt their Walmart's margins. $1,000?
I know. Ooh. But
how are they going to stay afloat?
I don't know, but if it means we get a Captain Toad. But yeah, what Balan lacks in polish is something that Captain Toad has in spades, and I always did think that like the Wii U original. Angel, I know you played it, but Kevin, did you ever play the Wii U original?
No, I did not.
It was honestly one of the most like visually appealing games on the Wii U. Like the sheer charm of it. Like, you know, there are these little puzzle box dioramas. You spin them around to like see all the nooks and crannies you need to traverse, and then you kind of like find each state's objects in those. But like doing that when there's like cute little Goombas like napping on life preservers, or like shy enemies cowering when you throw a turnip at them, or like Toad like shivering in the cold or holding his breath underwater, or like if you spin him around he gets really dizzy. Like it was all just very like charming, and that it almost distracts from the actual game you're trying to play. But the whole thing, it just feels like a little like cartoon. Like I think Angel, I don't know if you remember me saying this, I feel like I said, we could check the tape actually, we talked about Captain Toad. I feel like I made a comparison back in the day to it almost being like Nintendo's version of WALL-E, where it's like telling stories and these little interactions and charming moments with zero dialogue. It's all told through these little like animations, basically. Obviously, totally different scale in terms of what it tells, but just like kind of, I think I remember it saying it mirrored that in my mind.
That
complete
inhales and total lie, but I don't. Well, I'm not confident enough to disprove it.
Someone can go look back. I want to say it was an episode in the 80s or something. Not like the era of the 80s, but like
in the 80s.
not the era of the 80s.
Back in the day, but when Jason had a full set of hair.
I still do. Thank you very much. No, but I think sometime in the 80 number range, like episode 80 to 89, it's somewhere in there, I think. So someone can go check. But yeah, now being able to revisit that and have these 18 new stages for only $4 is pretty awesome. And so I actually want to talk about a bit are those 18 stages in particular, because unlike the rest of the game, here 2-player is actual 2-player co-op. It's not one person being Toad and the other being the pointer, which is, you know, fine in of itself. Like the pointer person is always able to hold enemies at bay or interact with the environment as you ran around as Toad. But, you know, when there's 2 actual people, the dynamic does in fact change, because now you have 2 people in the same little diorama and you need to manipulate the camera angle together. So for those who played the original Captain Toad, like it's still the same gameplay rules. You can't jump, can't really defend yourself against enemies. What else there? Like you know, you need to find like that primary objective of just getting the crown. It was a star in the original, now it's a crown. And it's somewhere in this multi-story maze, and you have to move the camera around to sort of reveal areas where it could be or how to get to it. But now everything's basically doubled up. So there's Toad and there's Toadette, which means theoretically you can have two things happening at once. If you're both, if they're both obtainable from a similar viewpoint, one person can grab all the coins or whatever, do the secondary goal for the stage to do the 100% of it. Another can work towards getting one of the 3 diamonds that are scattered around the stage, which, as a reminder for folks who haven't played Captain Toad recently, you need to collect those diamonds because the grand total of those unlock the later stages. So, there's all sorts of different things you can do in concept by having 2 people and be more efficient. But what I found is that it's actually kind of hard to truly multitask, in part because you never really have a static viewpoint. You do need to fairly constantly rotate the camera to see what's behind a bend or, hidden away under a lip of a platform or where a ladder is, that sort of thing. So if you try and swing the camera while your partner's on the move, there's a not 0% chance, higher than that in fact, that you'll now have your partner, your Toadette or whatever, run into an enemy unintentionally or hit an obstacle or, die. And that's obviously the case too if they decide to move the camera while you're doing something. So what I found is more so than if you play with the pointer controls, communication really is key. You need to discuss the specific moves you're going to make. You need to talk through the potential paths you're going to take. And that makes it very different of experience than when player 2 is just your wingman with a pointer, like in most of Captain Toad. Another reason you want to stick together, though, is one of the new mechanics introduced in the special episode DLC is called boo spotting. And in this thing, actually I should back up. The DLC has, it's a mix of new stuff and new puzzles in existing environments. So there's 5 entirely new environments. There's a pirate ship. There's this amazing world made entirely out of snacks that looks great, really charming. But also retrofit some existing stages you played in the main game. So with boo spotting, what they've done is basically switch off the lights on some stages, made them a nighttime perspective, and layered them with boos. And it's up to the 2 of you to simultaneously shine your headlamps at the same boo at the same time to evaporate him, meaning you need to rather quickly coordinate on which boos to go after, in what order, and where in the level, because they surround you fast, and there's dozens of them. So it's a really, it's again, communication's key, but you gotta stick together for that to actually get through. It took a couple tries when we were doing it. Another new mechanic for some stages, or I think it's new, is it's called crown capturing. And for these, instead of just having one crown, you need to collect 5 crown fragments, I guess, to summon the final crown for a level. The catch here is when you grab one, the next one will appear somewhere else entirely on the stage, but only for 10 seconds or so. So this is actually an instance where you do need to split up and sort of plot out each crown's placement, then sort of volley back and forth between your positions until you get all 5, and then the big one appears, and that's that. But perhaps where, in all the stuff where the second player is useful, perhaps where it's the least significant is the minecart stages. I don't know if you guys remember from the original Captain Toad, or, well, Kevin, you didn't play it, but there are these stages where you slip
when I saw those, I was oh man, they should just take this and turn this into Pokemon Snap, and then they never
they did.
on the Wii U.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, Wii U should have had Pokemon Snap just for
actually using the gyroscope. I don't think you use the gyroscope on the Switch.
You don't. I don't think you do. But you do have the option to use it with Captain Toad. No, but the minecarts, for those who don't remember, basically, you slip into a first-person mode and you're just chucking turnips at stuff. So now, when it's the full 2-player one, it's just 2 of you. And since the targets are usually together at any one point, you don't need to necessarily plot out where to swing the camera or whatever. You just throw your turnips, which makes it like a very Nintendo-y miniaturized version of Time Crisis or some sort of light gun game vibe, where it's just, you're just throwing things at the screen and trying to hit everything. And it's actually really fun, even though it's kind of a nice break from all the meticulous planning of the other stages, because you just throw stuff randomly and get some diamonds and move on. So it's fun. Really, if you, I guess, to sum this up, those are kind of big differences. So really, if you enjoyed the first Captain Toad at all, the new stages are a lot of fun. They offer some different puzzles, they introduce some new mechanics, and they still, what I really liked is they actually did what Captain Toad originally did so best, which is both be this charming little puzzle game and simultaneously a nice homage to Mario. Even in the special episode, you're given the chance to collect coins in special stages that conceptually mirror the Toad houses in Mario 3, where you it shows up somewhere you've already been and you go back and then do the special. I mean, here you're just flipping pages of a book instead of an overworld, but still, it's nice that they kind of have that nod. Or the turnip throwing is obviously a Mario 2 reference. Getting the pickaxe plays the music from the arcade Donkey Kong game. It's all there. It all still feels very Mario homage-y, which is cool. If you decide to jump in on this in the next couple weeks, or if you had the game for $4 when Walmart was selling it at that and haven't played it yet. It is a nice preview of what to expect from Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. I mean, first off, since Captain Toad was modeled around 3D World, that meant it too had those gamepad-friendly touch-based platforms to manipulate. So with the Switch version, both in the main game and the special DLC, they just mapped that to the gyro controls. So the cursor is now controllable by rocking the controller back and forth. It works decently well. Not as precise as touch, I feel like, but not horrible either. So if you want an early sample of what that'll be like in 3D World, it's already right here. It's been here for a couple years. And second, it has come to light recently that Captain Toad segments within 3D World on Switch, which, the Captain Toad segments originally were in 3D World and then spun off into the separate title. But the ones in 3D World will now support 4 players in 3D World on Switch. So if you want a taste of what that will be like, Treasure Tracker offers half of that, but double of what you may be previously used to. So you can kind of see how you feel about it. My one piece of advice, though, is do not play with just Joy-Cons, be it in Captain Toad special episode or 3D World, because we originally tried that since the game iconography store suggested it, but man, it is not seamless. It is not intuitive. Like, to move the camera, you have to hold a button and then the stick, which means you can't move while moving the camera, which is something I do all the time when solving Captain Toad puzzles. And then zooming out requires a similar action. It's just, yeah. So if you have a grip or a Pro controller or anything that lets you do a full setup with 2 sticks, go that route. Do not use Joy-Con only, even though the game, because it's so co-op centric and it's on Switch and you just pop off the Joy-Cons and play. Like, use the sticks. Use both sticks. So yeah, that's Captain Toad. I felt like I was just rambling, but it's really fun. Like, it's such a charming little experience. And it does segue us nicely into a conversation we wanted to have as sort of a pre-game analysis, if you will, of 3D World's launch on Switch, which is just, we wanted to talk co-op games. 3D World's going to be a biggie for that. Captain Toad did its thing. Even Balan offers co-op for those who want that. But more broadly, co-op can play out in a lot of different ways. So, arguably even team-based stuff, like when we do our weekly Splatoon games, and like, technically that's co-op in a way. So it does
definitely is co-op.
Kind of, yeah. So it does beg the question, like, when someone says co-op, like what does that mean? Like, what's the experience you like? What do you gravitate towards? What does co-op mean to you when you hear it? Like, what's some of your favorite experiences? Because I know we've all, in some degree, even Apex Legends is co-op in a way. We've all played co-op. Like, is there a particular type you like?
I'll go second.
I wouldn't consider Apex co-op at all. Strictly for the fact that in my mind, co-op is always players versus environment versus players versus players. So I wouldn't consider that co-op at all, honestly.
What would you consider
it? Just a competitive shooter. Yeah, you're cooperating, but co-op has always seemed to me like Left 4 Dead, where it's just you and 3 other players. And I know Left 4 Dead has a versus mode, and sure, you can argue that you're cooperating with your team against another team, but that at that point, that's just competitive. You're a team. You're not. I don't know. I've always just thought of co-op as players versus environment, as opposed to players versus players.
No, I've kind of been the same way, honestly. I was just like, when I was, when we were setting up this episode, and I was like posing the question to myself, I'm like, well, technically anything where you're cooperating by definition is co-op. But yeah, I don't think, when I hear co-op, I do not think, like, the fact that I was like, even our Splatoon games are co-op, like, it didn't occur to me that, yeah, obviously if we're cooperating, it's cooperative. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think that it tends, my default position is it's you against
definition,
the game.
I would when I think co-op, like, I would definitely think Salmon Run before I think the League mode, but because that's literally just us versus the Salmonoids.
Yeah.
But
so what when you do think co-op, Kevin, like, is there a specific favorite co-op experience you've had?
Oh, absolutely. Resident Evil 5 is one of my favorite games of all time, and me and our buddy Matthew, when that game came out, we played so much of it.
He's still playing.
Rebought the game. We tried last year, but we just never really got back into it. But yeah, Resident Evil 5 is probably, and it's not even one of the best Resident Evil. I'd probably say at this point it's probably on the lower end of Resident Evil games, but it's still probably one of my favorite games of all time, just because of how much of that game me and Matthew played. It was just, Jesus Christ. Those are some good memories right there.
Is 5? 5 isn't the one where they punch a boulder. That's 6, right?
No, that's 5.
Oh, that's 5. Okay. I can see how that could be really fun. That game's so over the top.
Yeah, it is. I mean, although, like, before that boulder scene, that's kind of like where it just... I don't want to say it stayed grounded.
That boulder scene
like,
is also, like, all the way at the end. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so it's like... It doesn't get... It stands out because it doesn't really fit in with, like, the rest, I guess. It's like, whoa, I guess you could do that already. I mean, I guess that's happening. But
yeah, that game ramps up. Spoiler alerts for Resident Evil 5, but most of the game you're playing in, like, villages, then it goes into laboratories, then it goes to, like, caves, and the game ends inside a volcano. And that's where Chris Redfield punches the boulder.
And 6 then runs with that, right? Does 6 get more ridiculous, or does
Six
it does
goes,
get more ridiculous. Yeah.
Way more ridiculous.
Yeah.
6 was just trying to appease literally every single audience at the same time, and that's how you got 4 completely different campaigns.
Right.
But it was still fun though. I mean, yeah, when I'm looking for co-op, like I'm just looking for any campaign that I could beat with someone else, like specifically my brother. Like I'm always thinking of like the Tales games. Like those are definitely, even though like you could play them all perfectly fine single player, I definitely prefer to play multiplayer, to the point that like we have like 5 Tales games that we still haven't touched because we're still trying to get through Tales of Xillia, and we still have Vesperia, Xillia 2, and like a bunch of others after. And yeah, I just can't play them because I just want to play them with my brother. But then, you know, like Kevin mentioned, it's Resident Evil 5, but when I did really love that one and 6, the one that I feel like I more fondly remember now is Revelations 1. Because, oh man, the multiplayer in that one. It was pretty much a raid mode, but the thing about the co-op is that you end up playing it longer than the single player. Like I played the entire raid mode with a friend.
Are you talking about Mercenaries? Is that the raid mode?
No.
Or is that different from?
This is a little different. Like this one, like you're going from point A to point Z, and you're just trying not to die. There are some point-based levels, but for the most part, it's just play through this section of the game again with remixed enemies and stuff. But you're doing it with someone else this time. So you might fight like waves and waves of the final boss monster, but he's like super tiny. But you have to get through, a couple corridors from the game. But it all builds up to like the final level, which I kid you not, you run through the entire game. You're expected to run through the entire game in one run, like in one session. So you start from like the very, very beginning and you go through everything all the way to the final battle. And you're doing it in co-op, and it's just really cool. It's definitely super fun, super hard.
And thematically, the whole Revelations 1 was all set on that ship, right? So you're just basically running through the entire ship.
Yeah, you're literally... No. You're pretty much just doing the ship sections. I mean, there is like some caves, there's like some docks area, but those are all pretty small. Like the ship is definitely like the biggest section. I mean, it's definitely something that will take like maybe an hour or two, but an hour or two of just like one session is like intense because, by the time you get to the end and you're barely surviving, you really don't want to die. Like the stakes just feel way too high because, you don't want to do all of that all over again so soon. But which is where the co-op like really hinges on, communication and working together. Which, damn, I don't know, Capcom just like knocks it out with these co-op games because, I can't really not talk about co-op and not bring up Monster Hunter, which is a game that gets exponentially better when you're playing it with someone else. Because, I mean, I did enjoy it initially alone, but it wasn't until I started hunting with my brother in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate that it was just a ton of fun. And, Portal 2, Pikmin 2, Pikmin 3. I know I rag on Pikmin 3 a lot, but the game itself was a ton of fun with the co-op, but, that also made it easy. But, yeah, all those games. DKC 2, I kind of wish you could play simultaneously, but if anything, it's for the best, because DKC 1, 2, and even the country games, like, you could play them cooperatively, but it never really those don't really feel like co-op games. Especially Donkey Kong Country Returns, Tropical Freeze, and the first one. Just because it feels obvious that the game is designed for a single player, but it just feels like two people are playing a single player game simultaneously. You're not really, it doesn't really feel like you're cooperating or working together. We're just playing at the same time, which, could sometimes be bad because you'll jump on an enemy that's supposed to be used, to bounce across the gap and get to the next area. But if someone does it too early, then the second player won't have something to jump on. So,
yeah, that's something that, like, when I think co-op, and maybe it's because I'm a brainwashed Nintendo fanboy, but the game that always drifts front of my mind is Four Swords. And your point about Donkey Kong Country and how it was just like it was two people playing single player, I feel like Four Swords from Nintendo, and granted they've continued doing stuff like Donkey Kong Country, you look at Yoshi's Woolly World or like Kirby Star Allies, and it's just you're walking together as a group of people and you might bonk into enemies, someone else will get hit or that sort of thing. But like,
yeah, the new Super Mario Bros. Games feel the same way, except the carrying and throwing each other works a lot better in that game. Like, I feel like the way they hide some of the coins almost encourages you to work with your partner to get them versus the Donkey Kong ones where, like I mentioned, 90, I would say like 70 to 80% of the time, you're better off, whoever is playing as Dixie, Cranky, or Diddy, they're better off just clinging out to Donkey Kong for almost all of the platforming parts, except for a few certain ones where, it's just really, really hard that you want to have multiple attempts at it just so one of you could survive so that the other person could spawn on the other side.
Right.
So, yeah, like I said, it really does just feel like you're just playing it simultaneously and just, I guess, decreasing the amount of times you will have to redo it versus, working together. I don't know. It's weird.
Which, to go back to what I was saying about Four Swords, is I feel like Four Swords was a turning point where Nintendo realized, if we're going to have people all doing the same thing at once, make it cooperative. You're all moving towards the same goal. But, like, a little head-to-head inside isn't so bad. Like, the idea of, who got the most rupees in Four Swords, or now with 3D World, or then with 3D World, now again with 3D World, who has the crown, who's doing the most coin collecting or whatever. Like, adding that slight competitive, like, twist to a normally very cooperative experience. Like, I really like that. Like, Four Swords is one of my favorite co-op experiences. I think it's just a really cool sort of, like, it's not me in the middle because it's still more cooperative and competitive, but it gives purpose to the fact that you have all these people crammed on a screen at once and they might be bonking into each other. And sure, my strategies of throwing someone in New Super Mario Brothers, but like it basically sidesteps the thing you were describing as being an issue because it makes it part of the experience. And I don't know, like, theoretically it's not true co-op because there's a little competitive angle, but when I think co-op, for some reason my mind just always drifts first to Four Swords. Maybe it's because it's the first one. Like, my friend and I in high school played all the way through it together. It's the first time I think I did a true co-op thing like that, as an only child and all. But yeah, I don't know. I just really like that experience, and I feel like not very many developers have really latched onto that. Like, they still do traditional co-op, but there's not like the competitive within the co-op thing, which I would like to see more of. Like, I'd even like Nintendo to just, I don't know, put out Four Swords again. I mean, they did it for Zelda's 20th on the DS. They poured over the original Four Swords for free, I think. Like, hey, if they want to do a HD port of Four Swords Adventures with online play on Switch for the 25th this year, like, that'd be cool. They could come up with a workaround for the GameCube GBA connectivity thing. Like, I want more games to do that sort of, it's cooperative, but also there's like a little edge to it. Like, I think that's really fun. And it basically, like I was saying, completely avoids the frustration that you're describing with like a Donkey Kong Country or something, because yes, it still happens, but it's intentional versus just annoyingly accidental,
Mm-hmm.
I think a game that kind of does the inverse of that really well, actually, again, staying on my Nintendo high horse here, is Double Dash, which was a Mario Kart Double Dash, a competitive racing game that put in a co-op angle. I don't necessarily consider it a truly co-op game, and I don't even consider it the best Mario Kart. I mean, I think when we were talking about Crash Team Racing a few episodes ago, we were talking favorite kart racers, and I said Mario Kart 8 and DS and did not even mention Double Dash. But the idea of turning Mario Kart into something that has a cooperative angle, and the fact that it actually worked as well as it did, that was really fun, and it allowed new strategies. You're not just holding items strategically now, you're also like able to steal other people's items, and it's a Mario Kart you play differently because of the mechanic, and I thought that was really interesting. And again, like, if Nintendo wants to give that a second go somehow, I'd be down.
Yeah, and while its life was short-lived, we definitely have to mention like Sonic Team Racing, Like that one, while as bummed as I was about, Sonic Racing All-Stars Transformed. Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, Jesus, that name. Like as bummed as I was that we didn't get, like a port. Is there a port of it on the Switch? Because I would definitely get it if
not.
it was.
No, I don't think so.
Or, like a proper sequel to that one. Because that one I felt like was just amazing. Like everything about the controls. I feel like if anything, I forgot to mention that one last time we were talking about our favorite kart racing games. Because I feel like that one would definitely be my favorite overall. But, yeah, when we got Sonic Team Racing, like, the emphasis was put more on the teams. And it's not even just, if you get 5th place, but your teammates get 1st or 2nd, you win. I mean, that's definitely something else you have to keep track of now. But just the way items are used, every time you grab an item, you could press a button to send it to a teammate, and if you do, the item gets upgraded. Or if you're a teammate and you need an item, you could press a button to ping your teammates to see if they have one that they could donate. Or whichever teammate is furthest ahead will leave a yellow path behind them that if the teammates drive on top of it, they essentially get like an endless speed boost as long as they're on the path. And all while they're doing that, if they keep doing tricks, and which include, spins in the air or driving close to someone but not hitting them and that kind of stuff, you build up your team meter, and when you use your team meter, then everyone gets a boost that's even bigger than all the other ones. And, it pretty much works like as if you got the Power Star. So, I don't know. It's cool just seeing, like, I guess that mechanic, at least in a racing game, taken to its max. But, yeah, I guess we're still not quite at, I guess I still haven't seen. I'm curious where that's going to go next, I guess.
I feel like a lot of these ideas, like, happened and then kind of just faded away. Like, you mentioned Resident Evil Revelations. I genuinely thought that we would see, like, Revelations tied pretty close to Nintendo devices. It's been on other systems.
And I think they're both on the Switch. I know, like, Revelations 1 keeps getting discounted on the Switch, like, every other day.
It's discounted right now, because I genuinely thought, they did the Resident Evil digital event a couple weeks ago, right? And I genuinely thought they would do a surprise at the end of, here's something for Switch owners. A port of something, I guess they port them all. So Revelations 3, like, at bare minimum, give us, like, Resident Evil 7 Cloud in the US, or perhaps let that rumor of Resident Evil 3 Cloud become a reality. But either way, like, 7 Cloud exists in Japan. The Cloud stuff exists in America. That would be an easy thing to throw to Switch fans. But what I was actually hoping was Revelations 3. Because here's a system, the Switch, that is co-op friendly. It's all about having the 2 controllers. Resident Evil Revelations was all about co-op. It cut its teeth, on Nintendo systems, the 3DS and the Wii U. It seemed like an obvious shoo-in, and it was so strange to me that it just wasn't there. Like, literally the most Nintendo got, to your point, Angel, was sales. Like, you can get Revelations 1 and 2 for like $8 right now instead of $20. You can get 4, 5, 6 for, I think, $5 off. Like, that was all they gave Nintendo fans at their big digital event for the anniversary of Resident Evil. And there was just sitting there, Resident Evil, Revelations 3. Just, it could have been a thing. Or, like, let's talk about Mario Kart, right? Like, Mario Kart 8 has shown, it sold gangbusters. It was actually the 3rd highest selling game in all of Europe in 2020, 3 years after launch. It's huge. But they've shown that they can have that and simultaneously do weird secondary Mario Karts. Like Mario Kart Live, has done really well since it came out. So, like, why not just throw out a remaster of Double Dash? Don't expect, or an HD remake or something. Like, don't necessarily expect it to be the next Mario Kart 9 or whatever, but, like, it could live in harmony with the 8 showing there's an appetite for Mario Kart. So if you do, like, spin-off ones, like, there's a chance they'll bring that back. Or maybe make it a DLC thing for Mario Kart 8 and appeal to that audience. I don't know. There's just opportunities. Again, I was saying I want 4 Swords back. There's just always opportunities where Nintendo could, like, or Capcom or whoever can take these 1-off, 2-off co-op ideas and sort of flesh them out a bit more. Sonic Team Racing, where's that going to go next? There's so many things, and I feel like they always kind of regress back to the default of what co-op is, and they don't really, like, push it. Like, even when I was talking about 4 Swords, Nintendo does this competitive edge for, like, a few games. And that's it. Like, I just feel like there's so many ways they could, let these breathe a bit more and try different things within these concepts, and they just kind of do it as a one-off and then slink away. I don't know. These are all just dreams I have, I guess. but yeah. Although while we're talking dreams, one other one I'd like to see them move further into true co-op with is Animal Crossing, New Horizons. So they released the January update this past week, and it is nice to see that Festival is back as a holiday, and you can get to learn new reactions for it and collect new clothes and get new seasonal items, yada yada. But we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of the game. Like, I feel like we're at the point where it deserves a little more than just here's another holiday and another item to collect and then craft. Like, what past Animal Crossings had that this one lacks, I feel like, is a place to go with your friends and do things with your friends. I mean, granted, it did Minigame Island, which is a bit more competitive, but I'm thinking, like, Nintendo's clearly into the idea of you doing stuff with friends, like, kind of in harmony, not head-to-head in Animal Crossing now. Like, even for the festival thing, they're like, oh, you can collect all these feathers, and
you got your maracas?
You give them to... I did not. I haven't actually turned on game in a little while, but you can collect your... I know! I last turned it on for the New Year's celebration. But, you know, you collect these feathers, and then you give them to Pave, or whatever his name is, and then he dances for you. And in the press release, like, and you can have your friends come to your island and celebrate together, and then go to their island and celebrate together. And I was like, all right, clearly you want, like, people doing stuff together. So why don't you take the idea of the minigame island, but then combine it with that hedge maze thing you did, and I don't know, maybe do a special limited time event where you and your friends need to complete a maze together, and you each have a tool you have to rely on each other for, or, like, you know, and then you all get a reward or something, and they can possibly even do a Four Swords thing where whoever, you know, did the most of something gets a little extra or whatever. Or maybe, like, a better fit for that would be you go to an island and you have to collect a special seashell or something, or get the feathers for festival, but then whoever gets the most feathers gets an extra item. So you're all getting the benefit of what happens if you get feathers, but one guy gets a little something more. Like, that mechanic of Four Swords, I feel like they could just toss into Animal Crossing and it should feel pretty natural. So I'm hoping they maybe start fleshing that out a little more, because right now I feel like all the Animal Crossing updates are very just, like, simple. It's just like, all right, new holiday, new thing to collect, new holiday, new thing to collect. Oh, here's a new reaction. Okay, new holiday, new thing to collect. Like, if they can sort of spruce that up now that we're at the 1 year mark of that pattern, that might be kind of cool. And I feel like, I mean, they have the March update coming. That's the Mario Anniversary festivities. Maybe they do something there. I don't know. I mean, they aren't really... Nintendo's weird in that, like, things from Animal Crossing they don't just give up on. I mean, it took 4 years, but they announced that the Sanrio collection amiibo cards from Animal Crossing are now coming to the US. They're Target exclusive, but they've been around in Japan forever, and you could scan them and you get Sanrio character posters like Hello Kitty and stuff in your home. Yeah, and they've been a thing since Happy Home Designer, roughly. Nintendo never brought them here, but out of the blue, they're like, yep, we'll bring them out in March. So, like, clearly they're not just letting things completely fall onto the wayside. So there's a chance a maze could come back. There's a chance an island could happen. Maybe in due time we will get that, but that's just, you know, because I was thinking, like, Animal Crossing sort of is a co-op experience, but isn't really, but maybe there's an opportunity here. So, like I said, if we're talking pipe dreams, that's my newest one, but just wanted to ramble about that. I mean, it could be fun, right?
I do wish they had a more intuitive way. Like, even if they don't give you the tools to quickly design the core island, I wish there was maybe, like, a side island where, you know, you could create obstacle courses or something like that easily, and just something that, like, resets itself. That way you don't have to, you know, sacrifice a part of your island, and, you know, it also just takes forever for that matter. But
yeah, I mean, maybe in due time, maybe there'll be a bigger update. Yeah, Angel, you did mention Monster Hunter, and it is making news right now, and I know this is something to get some thoughts on. They announced that Monster Hunter Rise will be getting a special hardware bundle for Europe and Japan right now. America's not confirmed, but it is a Monster Hunter Rise Edition version of the Switch that has some designs based on the game's iconography, I guess you could say, and it will have a Pro Controller option as well, and it's not coming to America.
That is surprising.
Yeah, at least not yet. Maybe it'll be announced between now and the time this episode gets posted, but, you know, tomorrow. But, yeah, would you consider getting a Monster Hunter Switch?
I definitely would if there was more to it. Like, damn it sucks, because I'm, like, on that fence, because, like, my Switch, like, it sounds like it's dying. Like, the motor is just... Well, the fan inside is just extremely loud, and it just sounds like it's just, like, struggling to run at times, even when I'm playing games like Donkey Kong Country 2. But yes, I kind of wish
it starts spinning up for a Super Nintendo game.
It spins up at random times. I don't know if it has to do with which game it's playing or not, but Yeah, and I've already like cleaned the vent before. Like I don't know. It just seems like it's just like getting ready. I mean, it's almost 4 years old. It's kind of crazy that in about a month and a half, it'll be 4 years old. But I was kind of looking for an excuse to like get a new one, and I'm kind of hoping like even if it, I tend to ignore or just like take every single room I hear with a huge like grain, well, not even a grain of salt, with a pile of salt. But like if they were to release like a newer, beefier version of a console right now, like that would be something I would definitely look into. But yeah, I can't justify buying basically the same Switch. Monster Hunter makes it really tempting. Maybe at the very least we'll get the Pro controller. But I don't know. I thought for sure like if they were to release a Monster Hunter version of a console, it would come with something else, kind of like the new 3DS did when they had its own Monster Hunter edition that was the new 3DS. I think around the time that the new 3DS was announced. But
yeah, it was. Yeah. I think it was one of the launch options.
Pretty much, I wish I could justify getting it, but I can't. Switch is still alive. I guess that's all that matters.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's two ways of looking at it, I feel like. Because one is obviously, especially with something like Monster Hunter where it needs that graphical power and that extra boost, like launching with a souped up version of a system makes sense. But on the flip side, I could totally see Nintendo possibly having a Switch Pro later in the year and being like, well, how do we clear out inventory of the current Switch from our warehouses at a faster rate now that the holidays are over? Well, we could do some special editions. So let's dip one in red paint and do the Mario edition. Let's do the Monster Hunter one. Now get people to buy them and then, switch the production line over, and 6 months from now, there's the Switch Pro. Like, I could see it going either way, but it does put people in a weird spot because, like, yeah, technically the Monster Hunter Switch is an upgrade from yours. It has the better battery, but that, maybe isn't enough. And then if you know that there's a Switch, yeah. And if you know that, like, there's a literal better system looming on the horizon, I could see how you could be kind of torn. It certainly doesn't help that the rumor mill keeps churning out new things about the Pro. I mean, this one, take with a pile of salt, but there's rumblings from a Brazilian journalist who may or may not know what he's talking about that the new Switch might actually be called the Super Switch, opposed to the Switch Pro, as an homage to the Super Nintendo, because it's the 30th anniversary of the Super Nintendo this year. Now, I don't know how I feel about whether or not it's true. It seems plausible. Because, like, Nintendo likes doing throwback stuff, and it's a good 90s nostalgia thing, and that's what's in right now. I don't know how I feel about that, because I feel like that implies a successor system. Like, not an iteration, but an actual sequel. Because, like, the NES to Super Nintendo was an actual generational jump. So I feel like if you go Switch to Super Switch, that implies a jump. So if they are going to do that, and it's just an iterative update, I think that actually signals that Nintendo might not do a proper Switch 2. They might just keep doing iterative updates, which is an interesting concept for a game console.
It would be cool, and I'm not opposed to them, like, deciding that, we're thinking of the Switch as a new starting point, and let's just perfect and evolve this design over time. But which, in my personal, like, wish list dream canon, like, we would just keep seeing better versions of this, I guess, both handheld and docked console that will continue to have the backwards compatibility, but just keep getting better in other ways. Over time, we would expect the technology to get more powerful in handheld modes, or maybe be, like, still a generation or two behind. But, I don't know. I think that'd be cool.
And it seems like...
And it makes sense for Nintendo.
It seems like the industry's... Yeah, and it's basically mirroring how iPhones are updated. Like, yeah, there's new ones that have new specs, and they're always, like, super, like, oh, look what this can do, and now it has this screen, now it has that. But all the stuff still kind of runs on the old one. It's basically the PC gaming approach of just iterative, and they're already training people to the idea that your game will run differently on your Switch. They've been training them for that since 2017. Because, they had docked mode, undocked mode, different performances for each. You could go into preferences for some games to choose performance over not, like the cloud games. Like, they're sort of building up this mentality of, okay, there's different ways you could play your games. They work across everything, but you can optimize yourself a bit if you want. And, if they were to do Super Switch and just have it be iterative and then do, I guess, a Switch 64, like a Switch Cube or a Switch with Wii and the SWII TCH. Like, if they were just kind of go down that path of each Switch is still a Switch, but it's just making the moves forward, like, that could... I feel like that could work. I feel like Xbox, if anyone, is laying the groundwork for that on their end with, the Series S and the Series X and all that. But it'll be interesting.
That, but yeah, because I don't know. It would seem weird to just like have this generation be the Series X, have it still last the 5. Actually, no, not even. It hasn't even been 5 to 6 years lately for the other consoles. I feel like they've been 7 to 8, 6 to 7,
something like that. I think 2013 to 2020 was the last batch. Yeah, but and that's the thing is Nintendo's gone on record that they think the Switch still has a lot of life in it. They think it's gonna last longer than a normal generation for them, which is about 5 years. So the iterative idea makes more and more sense as you think about it. I don't know, again, if the Super Switch rumor is true. It's some Brazilian journalist, but the idea of an iterative Switch that kind of spun out of that is certainly an interesting one, and I don't think I'd be opposed. I think the one thing they need to do if they do that, though, is they definitely need to figure out how to fix the Joy-Con drift issue. They can't keep iterating on the same thing with the same controller. Like, when they updated the Switch with the new battery, they left the Joy-Con issue 2 years in. And now what's happening is it's this growing groundswell of problems. I mean, for me, I still have my drifting Joy-Con because I use my Pro Controller now, and it's getting worse. But in terms of the sheer number of cases, it's getting worse. I mean, over in Europe, there's been 25,000 complaints filed with the EU's consumer program, which is called the European Consumer Organization or something like that, BEUC. I don't know what the B stands for, though. But anyway, 88% of those complaints said the issue occurred within 2 years of a Switch purchase. Which now means the group is actually considering a real investigation and potential action against Nintendo for what they deem to be early obsolescence, which is very much a thing. It's what Apple got hooked for when its battery throttling behavior on iPhones was happening through software, and the EU got pretty mad at them about that. So Switch owners, complained directly to Nintendo, didn't light a fire under them for a fix, and instead they just had Furukawa, their president, be like, sorry, gang. Like, maybe the EU actually threatening real action like they took against Apple will cause a fix. Even if it doesn't, I just hope whatever the next Switch is, they actually address it. Because it's getting a little ridiculous. Like, you can't have a system, if they're going to do, like, iterative updates and have this thing last for 10 years, you can't 8 years in still be like, oh yeah, we never fixed the Joy-Con problem. Like, it's absurd. So, hopefully, whatever shape the Switch Pro takes, hopefully they at least address that. And maybe some 4K would be nice, but mostly the Joy-Con. But yeah, so I guess we'll see. We will see. But total left turn here. Kevin, you had something you wanted to bring up, right? Mario 64 speedrun record?
I think it was just in general Mario 64 speedrunning.
Sure, yeah.
So recently a speedrunner who goes by Cheese beat the world record in Mario 64's 120-star leaderboard. I didn't see the run, but I just saw the clip of him where like he gets his time, and man, does he lose it when he gets the time. He beat a speedrunner who goes by Simply, and when Simply beat the record last year, he actually beat it by like a whole 20 seconds. Cheese barely beat out Simply's record by 2 seconds.
Oh wow!
Yeah. If you guys watch the clip, even Cheese has no idea whether he's gonna beat it or tie it or just lose it, because that's just how close he got. So like I mentioned, Simply took the world record last year, and when he beat it, it was followed by what is considered the most wholesome moment in Twitch history. I don't know if you guys ever saw that video.
I don't think so.
Did he tell his mom?
What happened?
Is it the one where he told his mom?
Yeah, exactly. So it was a couple minutes after the run ended, and his mom walked in the room, like off screen, and he was teary-eyed because, he just achieved a lifelong dream of his of grabbing this record. Yeah. And she asked him, what happened? Why are you crying? And he tells her, I got the record. And immediately, she yells to her husband, he got the world record. And they both come in and they both give him a hug. Simply gets emotional again. And this is all being live streamed too, to thousands of people. And it was a very touching scene, seeing parents being very supportive for, a thing as trivial as the world record for Mario 64. But now that he's lost it, he's absolutely going to reclaim the title. He congratulated Cheese. I believe Cheese had the world record for a while, then was beaten by some guy named Liam, who I caught a little bit of his world record run, and then Simply took over. But now Simply is obviously gonna try and reclaim the title. And yesterday I actually saw one of his like very first few attempts since losing the title, and my God, he didn't reclaim the world record, but if he were to like post up his time, it would have been within 10th place. And even in that run, my mind just can't comprehend the amount of precision required to perform some of these moves that they do, and just like how surgical these button and joystick inputs must be. Because like anybody in the speedrunning community knows that any wrong move that can cost you seconds might just be enough to end an entire run. I don't know if you guys have ever tried speedrunning anything.
No, I am definitely afraid to try it.
Nothing super serious. Like the closest thing,
just like maybe a casual speedrun.
Like the closest thing I got to, I guess, like trying to perfect something was speedrunning New Super Mario Brothers for the Wii. Like I remember doing that a lot in college. I think I was able to beat the whole game in under 20. No, it was like close to a little under 30 minutes or something like that. And I just had like the whole path. Like I don't know, it was fun. I wish I could do more of that kind of stuff.
Most of the speedrunners will be using a program that'll show them whether they are making good or bad time between like various checkpoints they make. Have you guys ever seen like an entire speedrun?
Oh yeah, I've
not
definitely
entire
watched,
one, but go ahead.
I watched a few. I was like, if they're under like 2 hours, I'll probably watch the whole thing. Like probably like something I just have like playing while I'm doing
playing on
else.
The side or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do love seeing like the like their estimated completed time. How it has like a bunch of different little categories, or I guess like milestones where.
Oh yeah,
like, you have to get to the key. You have to get to like key. You know, it just has like abbreviations for like the section, like or like second key, first jump, blah blah blah, or boss one or whatever. I can imagine that'd be stressful.
Yeah, the psychological toll that it must take on a speedrunner to be like, man, I can still make any lost time, or like, oh man, this run is dead. Am I just wasting time at this point by continuing? It's nothing that I think I'd be able to take like alongside making perfect jumps or flips. And even if you are making great time, you can absolutely still get in your head. Like I can make I can be like 30 seconds ahead of like a milestone. And then I'm like, okay, I can make a mistake or two, and then that'll just snowball into an avalanche of mistakes, which then just kills the entire run. But man,
I mean, on a small scale, that happens with me with time trials in like Mario Kart or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And time trials are a form of speedrunning
in general. Sure. So, like, I'm just sloppy with how I play things. So, like, yeah, like I props to them that they're able to get in that zone and be that precise. Like, I just can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, exactly. And time trials are absolutely a certain form of speedrunning too, to a degree. But man, in that run that I watched, Simply was off by 2 minutes, and this was one of his very first few tries. And I think he's going to dedicate all of February to learning new strats and just trying to perfect his moveset, and then in March go for the title again. So I'm very much looking forward to that. But like on the opposite side of the speedrunning spectrum, I've also been watching a streamer who goes by Miskiff, who is actually Simply's roommate. Or I guess more like Simply is Miskiff's roommate. But this guy pretty much just started speedrunning the 70-star runs for Mario 64. Because if you don't know, 70 stars is the minimum amount of stars needed to beat Mario 64 without using some strange or hard to replicate glitch. That being said, both the 70 and 120 runs do use glitches. And I know on this podcast I've been less than favorable to speedruns that use glitches. But at least with the 70 stars, like 70 stars is, the de facto number of stars that you need to.
They're still separated by
game.
category, right? Like don't they have a like 100% like I guess clean run, which is like no glitches allowed, versus one that I guess anything goes basically.
Speedrun.com currently has 4 categories, which is 0 star, 1 star, 60. Okay, never mind. It's 0, 1, 16, 70, and 120. And I think those are all using glitches.
Yeah, I don't think.
I'm not too sure if they do have a category for. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's more depending on the game, because I know there's some games like Portal that, if you look at the speedrunning categories, I think there's one that either allows you to break through the walls and one that has you go through every single puzzle, because the difference is literally like, it would either be like a 5-minute run versus like an hour or something.
Yeah, so exactly. No I'm personally more invested. Yeah, I'm personally more invested in the ones where they do go through the levels at least, and not just try to literally beat the game as fast as possible by clipping through stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely more fun just to see like the fast reaction time to solving all these puzzles. Like, it's cool. Where glitches, like, depending on the game, it could be interesting, but sometimes I feel like it isn't. It's like, you just skip to the end. All right.
Yeah, pretty much. So anyways, Miskiff just started the 70-star runs, and I don't think he's aiming to be the number one. But watching him slowly make progress on his personal best is a very fun thing to watch. He himself is a very divisive streamer because of his type of humor. It's not for everybody. He kind of leans on the more edgier side, but his Mario speedruns do give some insight as to what I imagine a lot of speedrunners start off with. Because he's not a pro. He's constantly making mistakes. He's constantly restarting if anything is off towards the beginning of the runs. Like, I believe in Super Mario 64, you know how you come out of the pipe, you run to the castle, and you're stopped by Lakitu? He's like, I'm going to be your cameraman. So you can completely skip that part by long jumping on, like, the side of the bridge that leads to the castle. And, like, he will get that maybe 50% of the time. And sometimes, he'll just be like, okay, whatever, I'll make this up later. Or sometimes he'll just, like, restart. And, it's just all about that practice. But then there are multiple times where his chat will be telling him, oh, this is a dead run, this is dead run, this is dead run. And he'll just tell them, like, shut up, chat, I know I can do it. And then, at the end of it, he'll shave off a few seconds off his personal best in the end. Like, you'll see him struggle with some areas, and then a few streams later, he'll just have those areas down to a T. So you're at least seeing progress there, as opposed to Simply or Cheese, who have these movesets nailed down as perfectly as possible. They'll still mess up a little thing, but their mistakes are more like they unlocked the star, and they're just off by, like, a couple of centimeters, so when the star lands, they still have to jump up to, get the star, Those are their mistakes. With Miskiff, it's more like he needs to do a wall jump that he just has to keep doing over and over and over to achieve a star,
It's kind of like a peek behind the curtain of how speedrunning works.
Yeah, exactly.
Like. Yeah, which is actually pretty cool. It's kind of like, people that like to go watch teams practice opposed to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, like, aside from that... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, like, if you want to watch, like, more speedruns, like, I know I've mentioned this before, probably in QC, but I really recommend watching a series of videos. I forget the name of the channel, but if you just type, like, Sonic Adventure 2 speedrun progression, and they just kind of go over, like, the history of, like, when the records were beat, when certain, like, new techniques were found that blew the game wide open, and... Like, I don't know, I love, like, just watching those, especially when you hear, like, the stories, and you see, like, some of the reactions of someone who's, like, down, like, a couple 10 seconds or something. It's like, oh, man, like, I'm not gonna make it. And then, like, at some point, like, in the Sonic Adventure 2 speedrun, I guess, meta, they found a, like, Gear Factory skip, and then, so people were abusing that skip, but then this other person, they went for something riskier, which was, I guess, the Gear Factory skip, where they... I guess skip that section of the skip so that it just skips even further. But it's like one of the hardest things to pull off, and like they managed to do it. And I don't know, it's super hype stuff, definitely. And they just kind of cut to the good stuff.
Yeah,
good like that honestly sounds the most my speed of all these is like because I can I've seen like some
gonna have a narrator, so it's explaining everything. And
Exactly. Yeah. Like I could see someone glitching through and be like, I don't understand how they're doing it, but it looks crazy. But to be like, all right, so then they discovered like almost like a documentary about like how it came to be.
It literally is.
Sounds really cool.
Because sometimes you do need to hear like this is really hard to do because otherwise, like when speedrunners do it, they make it look easy. It looks like it happens in the first try, but then when you've learned that it's like, oh, they have to have like pixel perfect placement for these things or blah blah blah. It's like, damn.
Like it lets you appreciate it on a different level. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I see what you did.
Huh? That was intentional.
Like speaking of level, these speedruns have shown me more than anything, just what a goddamn fantastic game Super Mario 64 is. Like these streams have given me a newfound appreciation for the game, and while I'm watching them, I catch myself constantly saying, "Man, I understand why this is one of the most important games of all time." Like the way, just seeing the way that these people break the level design, or even just use the levels in such creative ways to get around. Like the skip, I don't remember everybody knows the snow level from Super Mario 64 with the penguins. Like
the
just
adorable penguins.
Yeah, just seeing how there's that star where you have to get the baby down to its mother. And if you're playing Super Mario 64 just normally, that can take anywhere up to 10 minutes. And just seeing these people do it in 5 seconds without necessarily glitching through anything, they're just using the environment to get down there. It's insane. It's something. I'm definitely going to be following the 64 speedrunning community much closer than I ever have, because it's just
is it
fun
going
to
make
watch.
Is it going to make you pick up 3D All Stars and play some Mario 64 yourself?
It maybe, but not to speedrun it. Maybe just to replay it.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I have been thinking of like, man, I wonder if there's any game where I have enough memory and that I'm good enough to speedrun it. I honestly can't think of anything. The closest that I came up to was Bloodborne, but man, even I'm still pretty bad at that game. If I were to do like a Mario 64 speedrun, I guess my only goal would be beating the 70-star run in under an hour, but man, I was looking at the leaderboard, and I believe all the people that got it under an hour was like first to 470th on that leaderboard. So that's how insane it is.
Right.
Yeah. But that's just a little part of the. No, oh man, it is very tempting. I don't know.
Or maybe just start small.
Maybe
just start like trying to exploit some stuff on 1 or 2 levels, and then kind of build up your skill set.
No, yeah, absolutely, and that's what some of these people are doing.
Right.
Where they'll go through the game and they'll perfect one part of it, and it's like, okay, now let me try to perfect that one part and go on to the next level, and then just or they'll just skip later on in the game. TikTok clock. Is it called TikTok clock? Yeah,
I think so.
That seems like a pain in the ass, dude. Just seeing some of these wall jumps, wall bounces, some of these flips that they're doing, it's like, oh man, I don't think I have it in me. But who knows? It's something that I do constantly bounce around in my head, but
it's such a like fascinating like subculture of gaming, because like I name drop games done quick, but there's like whole like communities around this where there's like fundraisers, all sorts of stuff, and it's it's just like this little thing inside gaming. It's cool that games become so big and so diversified that like there are these like subsets that in of themselves, the fighting game community is another one, but in of themselves are so big while still being so small in the bigger picture. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, unless you have anything else about speedrun, I think we have one more topic to cover before we go, which is a bit of a eulogy, actually. Was there anything else you want to say about speedrunning?
No, I said my piece.
All right, then on to the eulogy for Vicarious Visions, who have been a long-time supporter of Nintendo and have released many a game for its platforms, but it was announced a week or two ago, I think a week ago Friday, it was a Friday news dump, that Vicarious Visions as we know it, which was an Activision studio is now being moved into the Blizzard side of Activision, but they will no longer be a lead studio, meaning they no longer will get their name on the box. They no longer will be in charge of development. They will instead be a support studio, meaning that they will kind of be in the background as, I don't want to say as code monkeys, but, like doing stuff in the background without getting credit to help with Blizzard Team 1 projects, it sounds like. And the rumor is they're going to do a Diablo 2 remake. So they're still doing remakes and reboots and that sort of thing, which is what they most recently are known for with Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2 and Crash Insane Trilogy. But to me, I know, Kevin, you had some thoughts on this, but just to give people a little background, Vicarious Visions always have been very close to Nintendo because what they did is they were very good at adapting things to work in different ways and to be really excellent at wherever they were. So they took Tony Hawk and made it work on Game Boy Advance. They took Guitar Hero and made it work with the Wii. They're the ones that engineered the whole Wiimote inside the guitar. They made it work on the DS, that weird guitar thing you plugged into the Game Boy Advance slot. They took
I love
Spyro.
that thing. Guitar Hero on tour. I love that game.
Yeah, it's Angel, you had it too, didn't you?
Oh yeah, it was really, really great. It felt good to play. Really fun.
Yeah, and they, if you could find it at this point, but yeah, they did that. They retrofitted Spyro from being, Spyro the Dragon into Skylanders.
Book offs. I
always see it. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true. Like a used copy. So if you guys are in the Torrance, California area, it's probably at the book off at Del Amo Mall. But yeah, they did Spyro into Skylanders. They more recently, as I was saying, did the remix. So classic PS1 N64 era games into modern games with online features and whatnot, and they're just very good at adapting things, and they really cut their teeth doing that. And then Blizzard's like, you guys are awesome, good job with Tony Hawk, now we're going to absorb you completely, which kind of sucks because they were one of the few studios within the Activision umbrella, I feel like, that had made a name for themselves, that didn't, and now they are going the way of Beanox and what's the one, and Raven Software, where instead of being their own thing, they're just sort of playing second fiddle for other people's IPs in a way that is different than what they did before, where they got to turn an IP into their own thing.
And don't get me wrong, they were also, I believe they worked on the PC version of Destiny 2, so they had been delegated to second fiddle every now and then, but not in this way that they are now. I'm very bummed out mainly because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, the remake, I think is just a fantastic game, and it's a perfect example of how you exactly remake a game. And now they put out this critical and commercial success, and now to be basically, as you said, relegated,
or relegated. Either word depends on what the rest of your sentence is.
Relegated to this sort of, I guess, they sound more like second party at this point to Blizzard.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing.
And not even in a second party way that Next Level Games is now second party to Nintendo, where they bought them and they're like, we're gonna boost up what you do and you gotta keep your studio and keep your name. They, I think, dissolved Vicarious Visions essentially.
Yeah,
I mean they're still there, but the head of VV is now part of the Blizzard exec team or something.
Yeah,
which good for that one person, but the rest of them, their credit's not. They're losing their credit.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I'm sure that the team will stay together. But just that they can't be Vicarious Visions anymore is very, very I don't know, how do you explain that if you're trying to get another job? It's like, oh, I used to be pre-Vicarious and now I'm Blizzard, and Blizzard hasn't been doing so hot nowadays. So, I mean, I guess people like the new World of Warcraft expansion, but it's not like they're even working on that. Jason Schreier is saying that they're doing Diablo 2, so who knows how that'll go.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's been rumblings that Team 1 at Blizzard, which is their main team, has been having a lot of problems. So besides them doing Diablo 2, I imagine Vicarious is going to be helping out with cleaning up some of that because they are such a good. They're about 200 people or something, and they cranked out Tony Hawk and they cranked out Crash, and I think those franchises can live on just fine with other studios. I mean, Crash Insane Trilogy was Vicarious Visions, but then Crash 4 was Toys for Bob. And Tony Hawk 1 and 2, originally Tony Hawk was Neversoft. That got absorbed by Activision in a similar way way back in the day. And then Tony Hawk was handed to Vicarious Visions, and now Tony Hawk could be handed to someone else. Toys for Bob has experience with Tony Hawk. They did. Granted, it was Downhill Jam, but they're familiar with the IP.
I remember you telling me that, like, oh, Toys for Bob can take over, and I was like, Toys for Bob worked on, and then I saw it was Downhill Jam. I was like, oh god, no, that they are kind of like they're kind of like the last people that I want to.
But
touch
then
Tony
again,
Hawk.
they did, but they did a good job with Crash 4, and they had no real experience with Crash before that. So.
But specifically, the thing with Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 is you've had people who. I guess I'll just say their name, and I'm sorry if anybody who worked there is listening to this, but Robomoto tried to recreate Tony Hawk with the HD remake and 5, and those were both terrible, and I feel like
true.
Like, Vicarious put in all this work to get the feel of the game so right, and I'm pretty sure they got input from Neversoft, from some Neversoft devs as well.
Who's left, yeah.
Yeah. And now they're gonna make
Blizzard.
Yeah, it's like it
it could be one of those things where maybe they'll slap the VV logo on Diablo 2's remake, and it's like, okay, this is really not much different than what they did with Tony Hawk or with Crash, but it just the way they discussed it, how they're being dissolved and how they're becoming like a support team, and it just it felt weird given how, especially in the Nintendo world, Vicarious Visions was one of those outside devs that was just really tight knit with. Like interwoven with like the Nintendo history, like Guitar Hero on Wii was such a big thing, like specifically on Wii was such a huge thing, and that was all Vicarious Visions. And Tony Hawk was like such a graphical showcase for Game Boy Advance, and that was all Vicarious Visions. And it just look what you can do on a 2D 32-bit system. Surprise! It's actually fake 3D. Look at that! Isn't that neat? Like and that was at launch. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 was with the Game Boy Advance within a month of it coming out, and it just kind of sucks to see that someone that closely tied to Nintendo sort of just evaporate into thin air.
Yeah.
The silver lining, though, is everything that VV did up until I think when they started doing Crash and Tony Hawk. So all the weird stuff, like all the making Tony Hawk work on Game Boy, making Guitar Hero work, Skylanders, the people that were in charge of the studio at that time left the studio and actually formed a studio called Balan Studios, which you may recognize the name of out there, people listening, because that is the Mario Kart Live team. So the spirit of Vicarious Visions, up until the HD remakes at least, lives on in Balan Studios and is even closer to Nintendo now. So if you prefer historic Vicarious Visions, that's going to go on. And actually it's like a very sweet ending for those guys. If you like the entire history of Vicarious Visions up through the remakes, which I feel like did capture the spirit of what they always did, which was adaptations to a different, in a different way. That's kind of gone, but at least the physical, crazy stuff they did early on can kind of live on. So there's a little silver lining to it, but it still sucks for those 200 people at current Vicarious.
Yep.
Unless they secretly really wanted to work at Blizzard, in which case they somehow stumbled into exactly their dream.
It's like, wait, what? I get to work with the Overwatch team now and Jeff Kaplan?
Yeah. But yeah, there's been a talent fleet at Blizzard. There's a couple studios that opened around it in Irvine, and apparently a lot of folks are leaving Blizzard and going to those.
Yeah, because like I said, it sounds like Activision is being a little overbearing with them, and not everybody in Blizzard's liking that.
Yeah, which, to be fair, everyone predicted Activision would kind of do this to Blizzard when they first bought it. They waited a long time before they actually started messing up Blizzard. It took a while to get there, but yeah. But yeah, so pouring out for Vicarious Visions, I guess. And I think we'll end it here.
And pouring out for this episode.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope everyone listening enjoyed our kind of meandering stuff about music games and co-op games and freaking Balan Wonderworld. Our next episode will arrive on Valentine's Day, and it's going to include all the news from Nintendo's holiday sales financial report, which, given my well-documented love affair with sales numbers, it's fitting that would be the Valentine's Day episode. But also, it's 3D Mario 3D World launch weekend. Apex Legends may be out on Switch by then, and who knows what else. So it will be more than just numbers.
I think Persona 5 Strikers will be out by then, but I think it comes out on the 12th, so
Yeah, I mean, 3D World comes out on the 12th too, so realistically, I don't know if we're going to talk 3D World beyond...
Oh, never mind.
Actually, no.
You guys don't get...
I take that back. I will probably have Bowser's Fury impressions next episode, and I definitely, if the rumors come true that Apex is out this week, I definitely am going to want to talk about that, personally. Yeah, so to make sure you don't miss those guaranteed sales numbers and those mysterious and more topics that may or may not include Bowser's Fury and Apex, you can subscribe to us and on all the podcast apps. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. We're at YouTube. Our channel is RamNintendo.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at RamNintendo. I recommend you do those to also ensure that you don't miss any of our Quarantine Chronicles sub-shows, the next of which will be this coming weekend before Ram Nintendo comes back on Valentine's Day. So, yeah, I think that does it. I am JSR7 on Twitter. Angel is Weiro, WEIRO_O on Twitter. Kevin is KVN Gomi on Twitter. And yeah, Kevin, final word?
Vicarious Visions, it was nice knowing you. Rest in peace, my friend.